Hello everyone, welcome to the Media Cocktail Podcast, episode 5. I am not Brendan, otherwise known as Brendan, otherwise known as Not a Headless Samurai, otherwise known as Headless Samurai. I have a lot of usernames, okay? Used to go for like Hawkeye for a while. Very complicated business. Anyway, welcome to the Media Cocktail Podcast. Doing this for 5 weeks now. Guys, can you believe this? 5 weeks. My goodness.
Yes, we are finally at the lucky number 5.
That's right.
I don't believe it, like, at all.
I don't know.
There's 5, there's 5, lucky number 5. There's 5 horsemen, right?
Right. What's funny is that this starts out as like a meme, right? Like the meme is like, oh man, I can't believe we made it to episode 5. Ha ha ha, we've only done 5 of these. And then it gets to like 50. And you get to like 100. And you're like, oh my god. Time is passing before my eyes. Synecdoche.
But by the time we get to 100, I would hope the show will be over by then, because nothing can stay good after that long.
I don't think so. I've listened to podcasts that were like episode 420, and it was pretty funny.
Well, at the same time, that would mean that we would be at week 100 in order to get to 50, because we have some news about how we're starting to do the show now.
Mike, the Segway machine. Goodness, he didn't even want to stick with that bit. He was just like, all right, we're moving on to the news. All right, we do have a little bit of news before we start this episode. There's a couple things. For one, we're moving the episodes to once every 2 weeks. This is just a momentary thing. We might see how well this does, and if this really works out with our schedules and we really like it, we might keep it forever. Although right now, we only intend it to be a momentary thing until the summer, when we have more free time. And then in the summer, we plan on going back to our once every week shtick that we did. Whether or not that will happen or not, wait until summer and see. We had some more news as well. We announced a new spin-off show and released the first episode last week, which was last Monday. The episode of Happy Hour where we played Jeopardy. It was very fun, very funny video. I worked really hard on it. Please watch it. Oh my god.
It's a great time. Trust me.
It's a great time.
Our host and editor, Brendan, put a lot of effort in, so you'd be doing us a favor if you check that out. Please do.
It's doing pretty well, too. It was about doing as well as the rest of the podcast, which is good. Yeah, that's what I want to see. All right. We have a little bit more news around that. So, as we said, we're doing once every 2 weeks. These podcast episodes come out. And no, we're not going to let you have nothing for a week. No. We're not that generous. We're going to do something else instead. We're going to do happy hours in the weeks in between. So you'll get a podcast, and then you get a happy hour. Then you get a podcast, and you get a happy hour. The next one, I don't know if I can say it or not. I might as well. We streamed it. Is Smash to Mash for Smash, which he doesn't even go by Smashbox anymore. What he does or does not go by, well, in the future. I don't know, Mike. You want to talk about
that? Yeah. I think that we'll keep the audience. Let's keep the audience in a little bit of tension.
All right. We get a little bit of suspense there. That'll pay off at a later point.
Yeah, we will say what it is at the very end.
Nonetheless, we have a show where we play like a drinking game along with Smash. It's very funny, very long. Took us a very long time. Very long time. I think it's like 3.5 hours. Which is one of the longer streams I've ever done. But you know what? Whatever. Heck yeah.
Hell yeah.
I should also mention that the cocktail of the week, though I cannot participate, because I did not have the ingredients in a timely manner, is the highball. Michael, why don't you tell us about the highball?
So, what the highball is what you would want with it is, it really honestly depends on your taste. It's just get a highball glass, get some whiskey. Usually they say you want to do, for every 1 ounce of whiskey, you get 2 ounces of ginger ale. But it's honestly that. All you need is ice, ginger ale, and some... get some ice, some ginger ale, and some whiskey. 2 to 1. But if you like your drinks a little stronger than that, feel free to do 1 to 1, 1 to 2, whatever you like.
How about just get rid of the ginger ale and just drink the whiskey?
I mean, that's what Brendan is doing right now.
I have a bourbon in front of me. It's like a Buffalo Trail, I think was what the name of it was. I can't remember. I was told it was pretty good. I like it. I think it's good. All right, this is part of the podcast where we briefly talk about what we did each week. But we're at episode 5. You know that, right? obviously, because you follow the canon, you understand like all the lore and stuff. You understand that Michael and Will are clones. Like you get all this. You get all this. Michael, how was your week?
I actually skipped the first few episodes, so I'm feeling a little lost.
Michael, how was your week?
But I'm not a clown. Either way.
I'm not a clown.
Well,
a clone. It's a clone. Man, my own co-hosts aren't familiar with the lore of the show. Do you remember when we were talking about RE6 and how there's a clone of Ada Wong and how Leanne is confused?
even I'm getting confused with the joke. This is like a high-level complexity, Harvard-style joke you're trying to come across right now.
No, in episode 3 of the show. It's either episode 3 or 4. Because we've only done 5 of these, so it's got to be one of them. We made a reference to RE6 in which there are clones, right? Because Ada Wong is the character. She's a meme character in our group. Because she's like Deus Ex Machina. She just appears out of nowhere.
For no reason. For
no reason. And I made the joke that, like, Will and Michael are clones. And then Michael made the joke, oh, is this like, this is part of the deeper lore of the show. It's like, which clone is who?
I only read the manga.
Okay. All right. This bit's done. Canceled.
I'm not quite yet familiar with the extended universe of the Media Cocktail podcast.
So if you haven't been keeping up with the canon of the podcast, then what have you been doing the last couple of weeks?
Do you listen to the episodes once they come out?
Well, of course I do. I just don't pay attention. But in all actuality, what I've been doing is I have been trying to do, I've been doing a lot of, like, homework. It's been practically test by test by test by test by test this, for the little while that I've been going around. I actually had a test this week, which was super fun because it was about business. But in actuality, what I haven't just been doing that. I've been trying to, I actually realized, I don't know how I did this. Maybe it was because I ate, like, way too much fast food just for, like, an extended period of time. But I actually gained quite a bit of weight.
Yeah. I
gained, like, 7 or 8 pounds. Like, when I was, like, exercising pretty continuously,
mm-hmm.
I was pretty much, I don't think that this is going to be sensitive. It's not like some people are like, oh, he's 160. I know where he lives now. But I was 160.
That feeling when you dox yourself.
But, yeah. What used to be 160, but now I am 160. The heaviest was like 168 pretty much. But ever since I started bike riding, trying to do it like at least 5 times a week, I have like this little route around my place. It's like a nice little like rectangle that's like 6 miles. But I'm now like at a 165.5, I'd like to say. And yeah, I've been really enjoying my bike rides. I've been trying to read a little bit of a book. It's a classic book that it's mainly for the book club I'm in, but I'm reading a book called Dune. And okay. Man, I'm not wanting to go too long into it, but man, I am not actually quite a big of a fan of how it starts.
It's a long series, isn't it? I've been meaning to read Dune for a long time, and like, there's a couple like movies about it. There's a brand new movie coming about, I think this year, about it.
Yeah, David Lynch made a movie back in the 80s.
Yeah, isn't that like famously terrible? We may have to talk about that at some point.
It is more of a cult movie than main. Sorry. Well, yeah, it definitely wasn't that well received when it first came out, so it was definitely more of a cult classic kind of thing.
Well, I'm like, as I went further into the book, I'm starting to like it a little more, but honestly, when it comes to, how should I say, when it comes to like start to books, I actually really personally do not like hey, I'm just going to drop you in the complete middle. So once you're starting to like chapter 1 and 2, you're not going to know anything, but we're going to drop like the high concepts of the world that are going to immediately.
It's kind of like the start of this podcast where I was like referencing our podcast lore.
Like Lily is just like, yeah, he was staring at like the Hikonon, and is he like the Iggly Biggly Boo? I can't remember exactly what it was right now, but it's like, huh? What? I just got here. I'm so confused. I understand all these words independently. What do they mean together?
Yeah.
Like, it's just like kind of like, it's very much like the start of the book is like a sink or swim, and especially with high concept things with as Dune, which is, an attempt of trying to make it as, trying to be on par with Lord of the Rings with its world building and lore. Having a very sink or swim thing is not my personal thing of choice. When it was The Hobbit, it kind of eased you in, and I really appreciated that.
Yeah, I think that's the whole point of The Hobbit. It's for younger audiences. It's to introduce you to the world of books. And I think he actually wrote it for his kids or his grandkids or something like that.
Yeah. But even in Lord of the Rings, you start off in the Shire, so you have a comfortable spot to start off with.
I've been meaning to read Lord of the Rings. Really.
So have I. So have I. But it's it's like the difference of oh yes, we're starting in the Spire, and this is the world that we live in, and kind of giving you a little bit of a description versus. What they did here was oh yes, the battle with the Harkonnens with the Chrome Company, and we have to make sure that in Anarchus, it's whoa, chill out, buddy. I just got here.
So basically, instead of starting off the Shire, it'd be like if it started off during Elrond's council meeting.
Yes, or if it was
the start of the book is the end of the movies. It's all right, they're charging the Black Gates. All right, anyway.
It's pretty much as if you started Star Wars when you're the entire thing with Luke Skywalker and the training thing with Yoda. It's oh, I don't know what the Force is. I don't know what any of this is. Can someone please tell me what's going on?
No, you must use the Force to defeat the Empire so you can save the galaxy and bring back the Jedi. Okay, now go.
That's exactly what it was like. It was all that just kind of dropped in, and I felt the completely unvindicated because I was talking to someone who listened to the book, and they're no, I didn't have a problem, and I was oh well, fuck, I guess it's just me.
Oh, don't you love that? I always feel like a crazy person when that happens to me.
Yeah, that's why I'm looking forward to talking about it because this is for my book club and talking about it with the rest of them. So I could either feel vindicated with my annoyance with that, or completely get shit on.
There you go.
But other than that, the only thing that I could really say is, OMG, I am absolutely excited for Cyberpunk, Bomb Rush Cyberpunk, which is basically Jet Set Radio 3, and I am so into it.
I've never played Jet Set Radio. I have it.
I played Jet Set Radio, which honestly I'm much more of a fan of Jet Set Radio Future, which I played as a kid, because I really could appreciate the super open world rather than the mission based thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I absolutely love Jet Set Radio Future, and I wish I could play it, but I don't have an Xbox original. So having this game, I'm hell the fuck yes.
Is that not available on digital stores or anything?
No, it's only Jet Set Radio, or the original. Which I'm not saying it's a bad game, but it's definitely not my speed. Having it all mission based. But yeah, honestly, not much to my week other than those things. Will, how was your week?
Well, I played through Devil May Cry 2.
How'd you like it?
Anyways, then I eventually finished Yakuza 0.
Hold on, Will.
Yeah.
Hold on. It seems like we skipped a bit there. I didn't cut anything there, so that was weird. But we mentioned Devil May Cry 2, and then all of a sudden you cut out and you came back.
Yeah.
What's going on with Devil May Cry 2? What's going on, buddy? Give us the lowdown.
No, that's all I had to say. I played through Devil May Cry 2, and moving on.
It? Do you have anything, any interesting takes? Any
hot takes, or a hot take, or a cold take,
or a pancake?
I guess the most hot take I can say is I actually do think the game is kind of fun to play.
Okay.
Controversial.
Hot take.
But as an official Devil May Cry game, it is very disappointing. Like, my God.
What do you mean by official?
I meant like it's a part of the Devil May Cry series. It's canon. It was made in the series. It's made.
What is canon?
Are we talking about philosophy now? Are we talking about like
canon is when
canon?
Canon is whether the something that takes place within this universe that the author creates is like actually part of the universe they set up, or if it's just fan fiction, basically.
No. What is a universe?
The universe started with a bang. You see.
I believe I start with a pop personally. I don't like bang. It sounds too comic-y.
Well, actually, you got the Snap, Crackle, and Pop guys.
The Rice Krispie dudes made the universe? Oh, that makes so much sense.
All right. Well, this is a conversation that I'm really looking forward to. As I have said before on podcasts, I believe one. But I am a huge Yakuza fan. It is officially my favorite series of all time. And I know that you have played Yakuza 1 Kawami. What are your thoughts on Yakuza 0? I'm very excited to hear your...
Wait, those weren't the same things.
No, there weren't.
Okay, just making sure.
I will say, after coming from Kawami 1, I actually like 0 more so than Kawami. Now, I think that part of the reason has to do with the fact that the engine was specifically made for 0 versus Kawami 1, which just took the engine but then placed it over 1.
Wait, what? Please elaborate on this. Wait, what? So is Kawami 1, right? Like, Kawami 1 is the remake of, or like remake in air quotes, of Yakuza 1. Yakuza 1. Right. Yes.
It is the remake of the very first Yakuza game.
Right. And you said that they did the original game over top the engine. What does that mean? What do you mean by that? Do you mean they just ported everything over and they didn't do much work after that? Or do you mean like it was remade in that engine? Because when you remake something or like re-release something, if you're putting it in a new engine, that's inherently a remake, right? But if you are just re-releasing it, then it's like it's in the same engine. You're just upgrading what is there.
No, it is a remake. It is 100% a remake. It has a new system. It has new cutscenes. It has new visuals. Everything has been redone.
Okay.
I think
even the voice.
Okay, then again, I haven't looked too deep into the Yakuza 1, but I think they even like somewhat overhauled the gameplay or the combat a little bit.
Okay.
Yes, they added the Kawami system, which is I believe in the Yakuza, the Yakuza fandom is a very contentious thing. Some people really like it, and some people fucking hate it.
Okay.
And I don't like it. I don't like the Kawami system because it's just, hey, I hope you have enough heat bar to keep this boss from regenerating health.
Oh yeah, because there was that. Oh god, that was it's because like that the move here. So bosses can just regenerate health midway through the battle, right?
Okay.
Yes.
And
as you do,
when that happens, you need to activate a specific heat action or a specific like super move, basically, right?
Yeah, a Kawami move.
Yeah.
Okay.
Except that those moves are locked behind an ability point thing or whatever. So if you don't have that ability, you can't like kill, or it takes longer to kill the boss because you can't prevent his healing.
Pretty much. It actually does suck. But yeah, cool. So it was a remake. It's still a good game. It's still like overall a good game. It's just when you put it to, in my opinion, when you put it to like Yakuza 0, it's just you can tell like which one the system was really made for.
Finding groups of enemies is kind of a problem in these games because sometimes you can kind of get stun locked over and over again. But I just recall in 1, I had so many times where I just could not do anything because the second I get up, someone else already attacked me.
Yeah, and if one of your enemies has a taser, I hope you like being continuously stunned over and over again until either you die or you just miraculously get that dodge in.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have this in Kawami too, I believe. I have a lot of Yakuza games because I bought them in like a bundle not too long ago.
I still like Kawami 1, but there were just some grievances I had, kind of like that. But for Zero, what I appreciated in Zero was just being able to play as Majima.
Yes,
I had so much more fun playing as him than I did with Kiryu.
Here is the question I have for you is how did because I'm going to say I'm sorry, Will, but this is the only time you'll play as Majima.
God damn it.
Except there is a part in Kawami 2 where he has his own saga. I think it's 3 or 4 chapters. But you can only play in his demon style.
I mean, at least his demon style is fun to play as.
Yeah, you can only play in the demon style, and the other unfortunate thing is it's kind of bare bones because the game was really not made for Majima. It just kind of continues some things of his story. It's like a little side story, I guess you could think of it as.
Yeah, that's a shame because I just find his movesets to just be more fun to play as. Particularly his breaker style. Not a huge fan of
Slugger. Slugger style.
Thank you. I did get the ability that's hey, now your bat won't hit walls if you're only at the first heat action bar. But that's still an annoying mechanic to deal with. Basically, Brandon, yes. One of his styles has him wield up bats, but it has collision it can collide with the wall, similar to Dark Souls.
Got it.
So it's really annoying when you're in a tight space, and it's okay, so this style is worthless now because I can't hit anything but the wall.
So now I think the main question I have is, how'd you like the story? I
really, really like the story. If anything, so first of all, I like the mystery aspect of I've been framed. What's going on here? It is more. The first one was definitely a mystery of who stole the 100 million, but I was more interested in this mystery because this had personally affected me. It's because of this, now the cops are after me. The family is pissed. All kinds of hell's breaking loose. And from Majima's side, it definitely was nice that we actually got to meet. Then I like that you got to meet Makoto early on. You got to sort of know her before her role in being the empty lot owner plays into the story.
Mm-hmm.
Also, in the Zero, it really improved Nishikiyama in my eyes.
Nishikiyama, yeah, because the entire thing about Nishikiyama is he had nothing. He had very little things to actually humanize him, but Zero, especially Zero and especially Kawami, humanized the fuck out of Nishikiyama.
Well, it's
Nishikiyama.
Well, because it's the Kawami 1 did add those extra cutscenes to give further context as to why he became an asshole later on.
Yes.
But with Zero, I actually got to see their brotherly relationship, and it even made Kiryu's action in the beginning of 1 make so much more sense.
Yes, why he actually decided, I'm going to take the gun other than my brother.
Yeah. So, but Zero did add a lot to Yakuza, and I really loved it.
Yeah, so I'm going to say a little bit of my... I absolutely love the story. The ending of it, especially with Makoto, I was no, I know it's not going to be what I wanted, but still...
Oh, the moment when Majima is just hey, do you love her? To that doctor dude?
Yes. And... Because the thing is, at that point, it's that Majima loves Makoto.
But he just cannot have him be a part of her life.
Well, I think of less of that and more of he can't have her be a part of his life. Cause,
that's what I meant to say, was...
Yeah, because he knows that if he brought her in, it's only going to be just pain for her. So what's the best thing? She still doesn't know who his name was, doesn't know what he looks like, so
all he can do is just disappear and maybe perhaps just kind of watch her from a distance.
Yes, and there is a song in Kawami 2 that I want you to do, and when I am there in chat, because he's also going to be streaming this at some point.
I do intend to, yes.
It is a song with Majima, and I'm just going to say the name of it is "So Long as You're Happy, It's Okay."
Ooh. Oh, that ending was great. I gotta say though, I was really surprised that Kiryu and Majima never actually met up until like post credits.
Even though that their stories were interconnected.
Yeah. Like, thinking about it, it kind of makes sense, because I'm just like, okay, well, technically, as Majima stated, that he never fought Kiryu until 1, so it wouldn't make sense for them to, like, get physical until then.
Yeah.
But it's like, never to actually, like, come across each other was just a little weird.
Yes. How'd you like the thing with the final fight with Chibusawa and that one Chinese assassin guy?
I will say, again, I was surprised that Majima took down the assassin dude. Because, you know, the revelation of, oh, he's the reason you've been framed, Kiryu. I'm like, oh, so it looks like I'm getting my revenge. Oh, no, it's Majima's revenge now. Okay.
Well, the entire thing is like, you know...
He was the one that did shoot Makoto, so it does make sense.
Not only that, but it's also like the thing of, hey, what was Majima supposed to be in the first place? He was supposed to be a hitman. But who does he go up against in the end? He goes up against the greatest hitman in Asia. Just going to show that it's not a matter of he couldn't do it. It's a matter of more morality more than anything. Yes. Instead of taking someone just because you're told to, he's deciding to protect what he thinks is right.
I mean, hell, that was part of Shimano's plan after all, so...
Mm-hmm. And what about Chibusawa?
That was a pretty cool fight. I mean, granted, I probably have more fond memories of that over like Kawami 1's final fight, where it was literally just fight 20 dudes with a handgun.
I hate that. I hated the Jingo fight. Worst fight in all of...
Oh, it was so bad.
Literally all of Yakuza. But the thing that I also can really appreciate it is, especially with reference to, you know, Yakuza 1, Yakuza 0 feels like when two Yakuza became legends. But for Yakuza 1, it basically felt like when a legend became the legend.
Oh, yeah. Hell, I remember the whole thing in Kawami where they're like, the dragon's teeth have dulled, but if you can retrain them, then he'll become an even more ferocious beast than before. Something like that.
Yeah, so anything else that you want to talk about for Yakuza 0?
I love making cash in that game. I eventually I started doing the Mr. Shakedown exploits. Mm-hmm. I even like grinded out gear just so I could maximize my money output.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up with like 600 billion yen in my back pocket.
Yep, sounds about right.
Yeah, and then I ended up using like all that money to level up Kiryu Majima's Ultimate Style 5 times.
5? Did you finish the game before then?
No, I was like, I didn't actually grind out the exploit / the legendary styles until like right before the final mission.
Jeez.
And the reason why I did that was because I didn't realize I kept like adding in or kept upgrading them, just like, or it wasn't until like after a while that I realized, how long does this go on for?
Yeah, if you wanted to, there's been episodes or there's been things on YouTube.
I saw the video of the 900 or them level up to 999.
Yes, and it is actually crazy.
It basically becomes One Punch Man the video game.
Pretty much, and you cannot be taken down at all.
Like even 5 times felt a little overkill a bit. And I've heard like some stories of people accidentally upgrading themselves to like level 20. Which I find kind of funny because like first time I was upgrading the tree, I'm just like, man, these upgrades are like incredibly negligible. Is this really gonna help? And then I maxed it out the first time. Then I realized, oh.
Oh.
So yeah, I just like making cash money. Plus, it's just leveling up gives you a reason to spend all that money, especially since none of the items, or like none of the stuff you purchase in the game, like scales with the amount of money you have.
Yes.
Which actually, no, I find that funny. So, like for the most part, every item in the game is priced reasonably. Like fucking sushi, bento box, whatever, couple thousand yen, right? Then you get to the pocket circuit racing, and then eventually you get to parts that are like 10 million yen. And I'm like, isn't this supposed to be for kids? What kid's gonna have 10 million yen on them? Anyway, so yeah, I really, really liked Zero. And I look forward to playing through the series, I guess now in order.
What would you rate the game?
Probably like an 8 or 9. Probably 9, yeah. The story, not only was the story really good, but again, the gameplay is just satisfying as all hell.
Mm-hmm. Alright.
And how have you, so what have you been up to, Brendan?
Nothing.
Okay, moving on.
I had some choice to do this week, so I was in and out of streaming, and so anybody that's like a hardcore fan of the podcast knows that I stream at twitch.tv/notaheadlesssamurai every week, from Monday, Tuesday to Thursday and Friday, and I was going to expand on Wednesday this week, but due to my preoccupation with a couple other things, specifically chores, I could not stream this week, which was very, very annoying. So something I kind of hate about people that come in to do like plumbing or electronics or whatever is that, and I get why they do this, but it's still annoying. They do the thing of like, okay, we'll be there between 9 and 12:30. It's like, okay. Now I have to cut that schedule out of my day of 9 to 12:30 because I don't know when you're going to show up, because you could show up at 9:30, you could show up at 12:30. I don't know. So I have to wait. And that means I can't really do much else in the meantime. Like I couldn't stream because I have to have my headphones on, and because we have crazy dogs. So I'll talk about my crazy dogs at some point in this podcast. We have a no doorbell ring policy. There's even a sign that says "Do not ring our doorbell." So I have to have my headphones off at all times in order to hear the door being knocked. And even then, from my room, I can't hear it. So I had to sit in, like, the office, which is in the front of our house, or, like, in another space, in order to hear that the people have even showed up. And that was, like, pretty much most of the week, because we have people coming in and out. My folks are doing some, I don't know, like, redecorating? I don't know if we would call it that, or, like, redesigning? I don't know.
Renovating?
They're moving things around. They're moving things around. And it requires people to come in and out of the house to, like, redesign it. Or move
fixing
things
their
around.
feng shui.
Maybe? I don't know. Like, they're installing cabinets, they're moving TVs up, they're switching out TVs and stuff like that. So that requires me or somebody to wait around for, like, Best Buy people to show up, wait for cabinet people to show up, whatever, and, like, babysit those people while they do the thing.
So you basically get forced into downtime because they don't have a specific time zone to work with.
Right, yeah, and of course, like I just said, they don't have a specific time when they're going to show up, so they can show up between 9 and 12:30. It's like, well, then I can't stream, because if I stream, then they show up, and it cuts off the stream, and I have to go and talk to them and do whatever,
Mm-hmm.
Of course, every time this week, when they actually did show up, it was the latest possible time. Whatever was the latest one, that was usually when they showed up. And I would hate to rely on that, because I feel like if I relied on that, then they would show up at the 9:30 time or 9 time. Like,
yeah, like the stupid law of the universe or whatever.
Yeah, and I get why they do that, because they probably go job to job, and I'm not gonna like knock somebody from working. Yeah, like that's what they do.
Yeah.
It's their job. It's not their fault. But
it
but it treats me like I have no time of my own. Like I had nothing to do between 9 and 12. Might as well wait for the Best Buy guy to show up. You know.
It's kind of a no-win situation because it's like, what's more annoying, them being like, oh well, we'll appear sometime within these 5 hours, or hey, we'll be here like this time, but then something unexpected happened with their previous work and they have to be late.
Right. Exactly. Mm-hmm. I like to believe I have a personal thing with specifically with pizza delivery that I like to make this joke, which is that they always give you like a half hour. They're gonna say they're a half hour later than they actually are, and that's because they want you to give you a bigger tip. So when they show up earlier, they're like, "Oh look, I showed up earlier than I expected," even though they knew that they were not gonna be there until that time. But they gave that time estimate specifically to do that. Is that really the case every time? Probably not. No. But that's the meme that I tell myself.
I mean, it makes sense because the amount of times the pizza, or they'll be like, hey, the pizza's going to arrive in like 40 minutes. Only 20 minutes pass before it arrives.
Right. It's this idea that you're going to that you've beaten the time, even though you knew that you were going to beat that time. Right.
Yeah.
With this entire thing, I'm hearing a lot of hashtag relatable things coming from you, Brendan.
I know, yeah. Hell yeah, dude. That's how we get the show marketed.
Hell yeah.
Hashtag relatable. Man, you know what's gonna... We can't do it yet. We got like 5 people to watch the show, and like 4 of them are us. But, but man, the day we can get a show that's popular enough that we can get a hashtag going, oof, that'll be a funny day. That'll be a funny day. I didn't do Chess Drawers this week, though. I did manage to play a few games. I tried out a couple things. I tried out Outriders, which is a new, like... I don't know what I would call it. It's like a third-person shooter. It's kind of like a Diablo clone, almost, but it's like Diablo and Destiny combined.
Wait, isn't that... the way I would describe it kind of looks like a Borderlands mixed with Destiny.
Kind of... I don't know if it would go as far as Borderlands, but yeah. I haven't played too much... Pardon me, I haven't played too much outside of the tutorial, but...
I thought it was like a looter shooter in that sense.
I thought
like
so, too. I thought it was going to be the same thing, and what I've played so far doesn't seem like it's quite them. It's like straddling the line between Destiny and Gears of War. It's really a really weird... Oh my god, I'm losing my voice here. Really weird project. I'm excited to see where that goes. It's kind of like schlocky in a way, where it's like it's very like something you've played before. It's by People Who Can Fly, which if you guys know the developer, that's the developer of games like Bulletstorm, of games like I can't remember their other project off the top of my head, but they've been a developer around for a while. They've worked with Epic a couple of times. They're very like B-tier studio, and I'm kind of excited to see what they have here. Because I've heard about stuff that happens late game. Again, I'm losing my voice. Sorry. And it's kind of interesting stuff. So I'm gonna play it. I don't know if it's gonna be enough to buy it, but there is a demo on the Steam store if you guys would like to try that out.
I've actually I think I downloaded the demo myself.
Oh yeah. Play it and like tell me what you think. I had to finish the demo, but
oh my god, Brendan, your voice.
I know I'm losing it. I don't know what the fuck happened to
me. Yeah, I find it interesting that you brought that up because my dad was telling me about this game a couple of days ago.
That's funny.
Yeah. So I too have been kind of curious about it because again, I thought it was like a Diablo loot and shoot kind of deal.
You know what? I was so misinformed about this game. I thought it was top down at one point.
Really?
When it wasn't. It's a third person game. I don't know what the hell I thought it was top down from, but.
I think you've been playing too much Desperados, man.
Man, Desperados. I want to finish that on stream at some point. I would love to play Desperados 3 on stream, but the problem is, it's like you've got to focus so hard on like the strategies of what you're doing that like you have to have played through that chapter before in order to like be able to stream it. Because when you stream, you want to be able to interact with the audience, right? You don't want to just do like I'm playing this game and I'm silent for like 20 minutes. No. You gotta interact with chat. You gotta play the game. You gotta be funny. You gotta be entertaining at the same time. You know, it's a little difficult.
Wacky and relatable.
Exactly, Mike. I didn't actually just play Outriders though. I played alongside that. I tried out Cultist Simulator, which I've only played for like 24 minutes. Like literally, if you look at my Steam page, it says 24 minutes. Cultist Simulator is a game that I would never stream, but sounds very funny to stream. You basically make your own cult.
So, like, do you summon Cthulhu or something?
Right. So basically, the way that you start out in the game, again, I'm only a half hour in, so I can't speak too much to it. Is you start out as at a menial job, like you're either like a janitor or whatever, and like you get dealt various hands, as it were, and the game kind of like devolves from there, and you basically tell your own story with it. So like, there are different things that can happen to you. So like and you spend different things as like resources. So you have like your health, you have like your income, you have your interests, and you spend those on various different things, and those various different things can lead you to different outcomes. Like right now I have a character that was a hospital janitor, and he listened to a homeless guy in the street, and that's about as far as it got. But like you can tell that like it goes somewhere, obviously. I kind of like the... Go ahead, Mike, sorry.
So kind of like Crusader Kings 3?
Not entirely. It's almost completely different. Crusader Kings 3 is more of a strategy game based around like you're trying to keep your family lineage alive. In this case, you're like trying to keep yourself alive, but also like figure out your own way through the world. And again, it's like a very like card-based system. Like literally, if you look at the store page, it's just cards. And it's why I say it's not a very good. It's interesting because it's a. I've got a lot of conflicting thoughts on this. That's why I'm like going like, oh, it's this. The craziest thing about it is that like, so it's a card game, so you have to read a lot, and it doesn't tell you anything. It's just like through the cards. Whereas with Crusader Kings 3, it's like there's something that happens in the world, and you can see your tangible impact on the world. You can't really see that in Cultist Simulator. You get like various cards that tell you what you did or did not do. It's basically like a text adventure through cards, is the way I would describe it. Again, I'm not very far in. There's a very good video by Mandalore Gaming, I think is the name of his channel. I don't know. That like talks about the different expansions and different like things that can happen in the game. For more of an in-depth, like, oh, what is this thing kind of view. Again, I'm very short in, like 24 minutes, literally. I'll talk more about it through, as I play more. I was playing 2 other games. I'm playing a little bit of a little game called Slay of the Spire, which is another one of those card games. Interesting little card game. It's about basically dungeon crawling. And you pick different dungeons that you go into each turn, and you get cards dealt to you each. So you basically select your dungeon that you're going into, and then you get the turn-based combat after that. And you get to pick 3 cards, 2 of which is our attack, and 1 of which is the defense. Or like maybe if you're not dealt a defense card that turn, you just do all attack. It's very like kind of like a dungeon crawly kind of thing, very roguelike-ish. Each time you start the game, it's a little bit different. Again, not very far into that one, about 25 minutes. I did not have a lot of time this week. Not very far in that at all. The game I've been playing the most is I've either been playing RE5 with Will, which you can check out again at twitch.tv/ not a headless samurai, or Will's not here right now.
Oh no.
Oh no. Illusion shattered. God damn it, I'm so drunk.
Stop making the illusion, damn it.
There you go. Will, what's your Twitch?
Currently it's LinkFan1291, but I think I really need to change that soon. I mean, I just can't. I'm still having a hard time trying to come up with a unique username. Because, like, there's... I don't know. I don't want anything, like, too long, but... Yeah.
No, I totally get it. I'm still not sure I'm going to stick with Not Brandon. I kind of like Headless Samurai, but, like, it's a reference to an album that I like. Not really a reference to literal samurais. But then it's like can you really market yourself off of, like, Headless Samurai? I don't know. Can you market yourself off of Not Brandon? I don't know. I go back and forth on this kind of thing, because it's like, literally, people market themselves as PewDiePie. The hell does that even mean? Right? But it's the most popular YouTuber on the platform, so.
Yeah, it's kind of like when I was like, I have a new Twitch, which, once again, I'm not going to break the illusion just yet. I'll let you guys figure figure it out at the end. But it's kind of like the thing of like, yeah, there's like people who with like names like, you know, like Space Hamster or Varg Skeletor or
Ego Raptor,
or Jimmy is here, and there's just some people called like Joe Cat or Alfredo Plays,
Right.
Moist Critical.
But these people are able to build businesses off those names, right? Like, it's like very bizarre.
Yeah, you know, you never know what is going to be like the name that is going to catch on. It's just it's less about the name and more about about like the person. But you still want it to be like something just like, you still want it to, you know, be memorable.
You want to look at that username and say, yes, that says, or that is me, basically.
Yes, this has been brought to you by the College of Business. Stop by anytime. I will ruin your life.
As we do every week on the Media Content Podcast, we talk about a piece of media of one of the hosts choosing. That'd be Will, Mike, or Will again, and then Mike again, and then maybe we'll get to me eventually. I don't know. At some point we'll get to me.
I doubt it, dude.
I don't think so.
Never,
probably. We'll see. Anyway, TM. And last week, or 2 weeks ago, as it were now, Will picked Shadow of the Colossus. Will, why don't you introduce us to the topic?
Well, the Shadow of the Colossus was originally a PlayStation 2 title that did get... well, if you could just pull up Wikipedia real quick, okay. It obviously says so right there.
All right, got it.
And
cite your sources in a Google Doc.
That eventually did get ports on
article.
Look, Wikipedia is the best source you can go to. All right.
That's right. Oh man, you remember when they were like, "Don't use the internet in school"?
Oh yeah.
Don't use the internet as a resource.
Yeah, use books. Who does that in 2020?
Right. You're never gonna carry a calculator with you. You're never gonna do that. So.
Never.
You're never Yeah, when you're in like your modern day job, you're never gonna have the internet. You're never gonna have anything to help you at all. You just have to do it from pure memory.
Right. Anyway,
so it did get, and that eventually did get ported over to the PlayStation 3 and got a remake on the PlayStation 4, which is the version that I played. I have not touched the other ones.
I played that one as well.
I was the only one to have played the PS3 port because it was the only one available on PS Now.
Oh.
Which I kind of feel bad for you.
Feeling bad for me. I will
Mike.
take your pity any day.
But it turns into that content hashtag content.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. In which like the main objective is to hunt down Colossi, 16 specifically.
Which, funnily enough, I had no idea. I was like, yeah, I'm nearly done. Oh fuck, there's like 5 more. I thought there were 12 the entire time until like Colossus 10.
There you go.
There is like an in-game counter to tell you how many there are.
Yeah, they do build 16 statues. So if you count the statues...
Do you think I looked well? Do you think I looked to you too? I was all just in my mind. I was like, "Yeah, there's 12," and I was like, walking ahead, going along my day.
Hey, I'm walking here.
It's interesting because, like, conceptually it sounds awesome, but like gameplay-wise, it feels kind of niche, I guess.
Okay, man. I guess this introduces us right into the topic at hand, which is that I have very mixed feelings on Shadow of the Colossus.
Yeah,
I want to let Will go first in this regard. Normally, we let the person that like picks the topic go last, but in this particular case, because I know what Will's opinion is over mine, over Michael's, let's hear what Will has to say about Shadow of the Colossus first, and then we'll go to me, and then we'll go to Michael. He's already like
turn off the camera. My bad.
Okay.
Sorry,
He's already like
I was trying to maximize the thing. There we are.
There you go. Okay, Michael or Will, go ahead.
Okay, so first of all, I do love. Normally, I'm not fond of cinematic games, right? Like Uncharted, I like them for what they are, but when it feels like I'm watching a movie or playing a game, I just kind of lose interest. But Shadow of the Colossus, I love how they integrated cinematic elements into his gameplay. Like when when the camera, I think it's something Brandon mentioned before, how the camera is always in the rule of thirds, right?
Rule of thirds is a cinematic rule for those at home of the camera is always on a specific point of the view, of the field of view. So there's always like the character is either on the far left, or far right, sorry, and then like in between. Google rule of thirds, you'll see what I mean. Yeah. Sorry.
Generally, like, it's used to kind of like frame what you want to focus what you want the scene to focus on. Like, a lot of the because all the camera work is the characters on the very bottom left of it, and most of it is just the scenery. So like, you just get to look at this world and like, I'm glad that the world is beautiful looking, because you do a lot of traveling in the game. Even like taking aside, even if you don't like dick around and look for the side stuff like I did, you're still traveling between 16 different waypoints, essentially.
Yeah. So
it's a good thing the world looks as good as it does. Because even by the end, I was getting a little bit tired out of, okay, I've been riding in this scenery for like hours. I need to get a move on. And just speaking, like, I love the general scope of the world, which makes sense. It's a landscape of Colossi. You kind of want a gigantic world.
Yeah.
But like, just there's a certain scope that this game encapsulates that I don't know a whole lot of other games really has. Because like, I think it has to do with the fact that or it helps that like not everything you see is scalable. Like, just some of them are so insurmountable or whatever. But in like games like Skyrim or whatever, you can easily climb a mountain. You know. And so it really makes you feel very tiny in this world.
Okay.
And even going back to the cinematic elements, that it even during the Colossi fights, like how do I say this? It really, goddamn, I don't want to say I just don't want to say it feels like you're on a Colossi. Because how do you say that? It's
you understand your presence in the world. You understand your scale. You understand like where you are.
Like when you're on the head of a Colossi, like like how sporadic the camera can get. Like, oh god, if I fall.
You know, the final boss does a really good job of demonstrating that, right? Like the sheer scale of what you're climbing, where literally the final Colossi is literally like a platformer level.
And I'm pretty sure he is the biggest. Yeah, like it is a. Oh god, that's a huge one. So yeah, I'm just really impressed by the overall scale of the game, and I do, and I actually like the whole climbing the Colossi mechanic. And yes, the grappling mechanic is very hit or miss because of how
the controls of the mechanic.
Not the mechanic specifically, simply because sometimes you're trying to. At a moment, it can feel like your character slips a little too easily, you know? Like, you're trying to move, but then, like, the Colossi could just barely, like, wiggle, and suddenly he's like, oh, shit,
Yeah, it can be very finicky at times.
Yeah.
It can be, and I get that's the point of the game, you know? Like, you're trying to grapple on something that's constantly moving. It's very hard to stay on it at times. Actually, I find it interesting that the platforming in the game reminds me so much of Uncharted, where it's really just grab onto the wall and the platforming kind of does itself, I guess.
Yeah, and it's years before Uncharted as well, isn't it? It's like 2005?
Yeah.
I want to say. It's like 2005. I want to blow on 2005. I think Uncharted came out in 2007. So it's very interesting after that. But it came out after that.
Yeah. But, you know, the biggest difference is that, you know, the grip mechanic.
Yeah.
Because your character can only hold on to a ledge for so long. So, like, you can't just, like, dilly-dally all you want. Like, you're kind of in a rush. Whereas Uncharted, it literally does kind of just play by itself. With all that said, sometimes the movement can be a little bit frustrating, like aggro. Because there have been plenty of moments where, like, I'm trying to ride this horse, and either like in the world or like during a Colossi fight, like I'll accidentally run into something and he'll just stop dead in his tracks, and I can't get him to move like forward for a minute. Like it takes him a bit to wind up, and I'm just hammering the triangle button. I'm like, get a move on, I'm gonna fucking die. But again, the whole like, yeah, he's supposed to be feel like a real horse, you know, he has his own mind or whatever.
They do that a lot. The team, I don't remember what they were called at the time, but by the time they were closed, they were called Team Eco. And that's something they do a lot. It's like, oh, you're supposed to...
Team Ico?
Ico, yes. Where they're supposed to, like, oh, you're supposed to feel like the thing is real. And it's almost like... I mean, I hate to assign this, like, malice to it, even though I doubt that that's the case. It's almost like they couldn't code the AI to do it, to do it the way they wanted it to. So they were like, oh, it's real because... Or it's like real life because we couldn't figure out how to program the AI to work the way that we wanted it to, so it just does random things.
I mean, I just think it just comes from the fact that he can't just come unresponsive at times, and they can be a little annoying. But that's
literally what I mean. Is that like it's like, oh, we couldn't figure out how to always make it responsive, so instead of saying, oh, we couldn't figure out how to make it always responsive, we say, oh, it's like a real horse. The real horse wouldn't listen to you all the time. Even though I'm pretty sure a real horse would run away from a giant monster chasing after you, I'm pretty sure that the horse could figure that out.
Try to come up with like a lore reason for why the game is why it is.
Yeah.
I will say, it can be a bit frustrating when you are thrown off a Colossi and you have to kind of start over trying to climb back up on it. Like the flying one in the sand.
Oh.
Because
I'm sorry. I find that funny because honestly for me that was probably my favorite Colossi. I love that Colossi.
No, I actually do love the Colossi fight, don't get me wrong. I just had that was like an epic fight. But it was more or less like, hey, you're kind of on a time limit when you're on his back, because if you don't do it fast enough, he'll just go underneath whatever. Part of the thing that annoyed me was sometimes it feels like when you're trying to jump from aggro onto whatever, your momentum just stops. So like I'll jump, but then he'll stay in place, and I just can't reach it, and I just look like an idiot.
You'll like levitate almost, like you're just sitting midair. And then you fall.
Yeah. And then one other time, like I grabbed onto like the edge or whatever, but then like I couldn't get him to move. Like he wouldn't move sideways. He wouldn't get onto the wing or whatever. And he stood there for a minute. I did eventually get onto his wing, and then I clipped right through.
Yeah, I've had that same experience. What's funny is that, like, how many times it also saved me as well. How many times like you fall off the thing and you're like you press the R1 button just in time, and you're able to like hold on for just that last second, and you're like, oof, that really saved me there.
Yeah. But that's like an amazing feeling when it happens.
Yeah. Even though it's entirely your reflexes, right? It's entirely like how fast you press the button. But it feels like you just barely got away with something. Even though it's like kind of not why, but like kind of like the broken mechanics that made you feel that way. Or not mechanics, again. Broken controls. I hate using the word broken. Because it feels intentional.
Because it's like
but like it just doesn't feel the way that it controls are such a hard thing to describe. Because like it feels right and it feels wrong, right? It's a hard thing to say that like, oh, this is broken, like this is like messed up in some way. Versus like, no, the creator of the thing intended you to play it this way, but it doesn't feel right to play it that way. And I think that's an interesting conversation to have about the artist's intention versus the easeability of, I guess, the easeability of play. I don't know how you phrase that. You get what I'm talking about, right? Like you get the.
I would consider what happened to me with the flying Colossi to be broken, because I don't think the developer intended for you to clip through.
Oh yeah, like the final boss, like I was clipping through. I'm showing my buddies here on video, but you can get the idea. Like I would clip to the bottom of his hand, like that's where I was grabbing, and he would go like this with his hand, throwing it up and down. and then I would wind up on the top of the hand, or I'd wind up on the side of the hand, or whatever. Like the model itself was not hollow, so I flew through it at one point. But because I was still holding the grab button, I was able to get attached to something, and this is where I wound up. Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So getting thrown off, that sucks, right? On its own, that kind of sucks when you have to like sort of get back onto the Colossi.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I will say, I think it's a little disappointing. I don't know if I should say disappointing. I think one thing that would have made it more interesting is basically once you figure out how to defeat or get onto the Colossi, you technically won, because if you've fallen off, you just have to repeat that over again, right? At no point do the Colossi like change up their strategies or do anything new as the fight goes on. It's really just, you fell off, well, you just gotta get back to that same point.
Yeah, it's basically like figure out the puzzle and then you solve it.
Yeah.
And then if you fall off, you just do it again, which is kind of tedious in a way.
Yeah, I would kind of consider this game like a puzzle game more than anything. It's like, okay, where am I supposed to go? That's the first puzzle. How do I get up there? That's the second puzzle.
Right.
It's kind of weird. It's a boss rush puzzle game.
Yeah.
Basically. Or, I don't know if boss rush would be the word, but...
I guess it would be a boss rush, right? Because you don't do anything else in between, except if you want to count hunting lizards and collecting fruit as in between.
But those are literally just for bonus.
Right, like it's literally as bonus. You don't even have to do that. But literally, you just go from boss to boss to boss to boss to boss. You don't really do much else in between.
Because even like finishing the bosses gives you health and stamina increase, which is
right.
I'm glad about that.
Right, it gives you just enough to be able to do the next one. It doesn't give you enough to be able to do anything crazy like some of the Easter eggs that are in the game.
Sure.
Will and I did watch some videos after we completed the game each time. Although I did watch them before. I had actually finished it, about like some of the hidden Easter eggs, some of the things you can do that are pretty interesting. Like you can climb the castle at one point later on in the game. You have enough stamina to be able to do it. You can even go across that bridge. It takes a while, but you can go across that bridge. And they even thought about you crossing that bridge because there's a invisible wall at that gate to prevent you from leaving. But it's not just an invisible wall. Like a lot of video games do where you just hit the wall and it's like, okay, well, can't go any further. No, they give you a reason why you can't go any further. There's a wind gust that blows that prevents you from entering that, which is very interesting because it's very hard to get up there in the first place. So it means that they, at one point, intended you to go there at some point. And there's a lot of reasons why that might be. We watched some videos, Will and I, of some cut boss concepts that they had. Some of which are very, very cool. It's worth noting that at one point in the game's development, there were supposed to be 48 Colossi. So, Michael, my God.
At that point, it might have gone from quality to quantity.
Yeah.
Even then, like by development, they were intending for there to be 24 Colossi.
I was about to say that, yes. Some of which are really cool. Like if you look up the spider colossi or the monkey colossi, there's a lot of like interesting ones that they cut.
Oh, that spider one I wish was still in the game. That one looked awesome.
For some of our audience that may or may not know what a strider is from Half-Life 2, it's basically what the spider colossi looked like from Shadow of the Colossus. So like they had like this tall like strider looking creature, not with a gun or anything, but like with a with various appendages. I think it was literally called the Spider Colossi. It looks great. It's an amazing looking boss fight. I have no idea why they cut it. But again, it's an amazing looking creature. Too bad.
Oh, wow. I'm seeing it now. That looks honestly great. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a couple, and there's even some of the environments from the boss fights that they cut are in the game. There's a Stonehenge structure in the bottom of the map to the right. I actually went there just to take a look, and it's there. And
I even found it.
Yes, and there was another boss fight that was supposed to be there as well. There's all kinds of like scattered ruins, which is very interesting, considering the game itself. There's scattered ruins of what the game was supposed to be inside of the game about scattered ruins, which is all you find in the game. You find various ruin structures, abandoned civilizations, things like that. Various references to other eco games, which at that point was just eco.
Honestly, it gets... Actually, it's very interesting because there's theories about the ending of Shadow of the Colossus that people theorize that makes it that this game is sort of a prequel to Eco.
Right, and I kind of see that. I even thought that myself when you look at what happens in the end. Anyway, finish your thoughts. We'll get the mic and then we'll go to me.
Yeah. The game, but yeah, like the whole of the fact that it's all scattered ruins, and like even how like there is no music up until you go find a Colossi. It's very reminiscent of Dark or the Souls games.
Oh, the soundtrack is so great in this as well.
Yeah, like it's it is just a gorgeous game. To play a devil's advocate, but the whole Colossi by being stagnant. I guess like the only thing that they really did to try to spice it up for the Colossi fights is okay, you hit this spot enough time, now go find another one. You know, like I kind of like the one Colossi where he had a symbol hidden in his hands, and you had to get the sword out of his hands to reach it. Like,
I hated that one. Not because of trying to get there, or no, sorry, not because of like the mechanic itself of it like dropping the sword. I thought that was fun, but trying to get to the place where you could get to the monkey's palm, even if you were actually there, like sitting in his palm, he would just crush you. Like he was such a big thing.
Oh
like,
yeah.
Why would you? Like, why on earth would he be like, oh, yeah, cool. It's cool, dude. Just stab the whatever.
I won't lie. It did take me a while to... I got to the... I finally turned off the dormant hints thing, because admittedly, I got a little annoyed playing the fight for like 10 minutes, and then suddenly, hey, if you do this thing, that's how you defeat the Colossi. I'm like, thanks, I was trying to do that.
Did anybody figure out the mechanic with the sword? Where you hold the sword up and it'll highlight where you're supposed to go?
Yeah.
I figured that out very late game. Funnily enough, right at that same monkey boss, where you're supposed to stab the guy in the palm. That's what exactly, which I think is the second to last Colossi, is where I figured out where you're, that mechanic. Mm-hmm. At least in the remake. I don't know if it's in the original.
Well, I didn't find out until like second to last boss fight where you can turn off the boss fight hints. Also, I'm pretty sure that Beacon of Light mechanic was in the original.
Yeah.
But still, like, I would have appreciated if, like, the boss or the Colossi at least, like, changed tactics the more you damaged it, instead of them just kind of doing the exact same things that they know doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The game does have some incredible highs in my eyes, but also there are the occasional lows that's like, that's a little irritating. But again, that's just how the movement was intentionally designed. So it's like, I'm getting angry at something that was designed to be purposely hard to control.
Just because something is purposeful doesn't make it good.
No.
Right.
But I think the mechanic works well enough for what it was trying to accomplish, which is like you're on a giant moving giant.
Colossus, if you will.
Yeah, I'm not going to say anything. I could say something about that now, but I'm going to save it for my part.
All right. It's a good thing, because you're next, Mike, so...
Yeah.
But I definitely think that this game is greater than the sum of its parts.
Okay. Michael, thoughts?
All right, so I want to preface it with saying I'm going to try and... as I said, I played a different version of the game. I played... the one for the PS3, because that was the one available on PS Now. And I also want to preface it saying if you had some enjoyment where I didn't, that's fine. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. The thing is, I don't even think it's necessarily bad. I'm trying to do my best to basically put my mindset of like, oh yeah, I'm playing this on the PS3 for the first time.
PS2.
With that, or PS2, PS3, without the concept of the concepts.
Yeah.
For me, I'm just gonna say this first. It feels like a tech demo when you think about it, because it's the entire thing of is like, oh, look at this. We have this huge new world that you could traverse all this stuff, and look at a lot of the Colossus stuff. It's like, oh, look at all this realistic looking fur. And I could say back in the day that was probably a very, very monumental technological like leaps, showing like this big world and this like and like these little details on like
I like
such big things.
like because I grew up with the PS2, I can't imagine like people's minds when they saw these giant colossi and just realized I can like fight that thing. Oh.
Yeah, so it's like it's like that in its own way is kind of like amazing. Just like appreciating it from like a tech demo standpoint. The soundtrack very good. I kind of like the little like weird themes that they got, especially like it feels like with like the language of speaking. I was like, what is that? That doesn't sound like anything I've ever heard. And I was like, because it's like that's not Japanese, and apparently it is Japanese. The language they're speaking. It's just like a weird. I think they said it's a weird like Romanization of Japanese.
Yeah, it was weird because at first I thought I was like, wait, are they speaking Japanese? But then I listened closer. I'm like, no, that doesn't quite sound like Japanese.
Can I just say, I find it very funny that for the character of Dorman, which they specifically wanted to be genderless because it's a godlike character, they had a female and a male character record both lines, and they just overtopped one another.
Yeah. Actually, I think interesting enough, I think that as you defeat more colossi, the male side overtakes the female side.
Really?
Really?
That's.
I heard that. I could be wrong. That's something I heard.
Honestly, I wouldn't not believe that, because there's a lot of small details in Shadow of the Colossus, some of which I'll talk about in my point. But something I think is really interesting is that the amount of colossi you beat, the more birds show up around the princess.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
Yeah, there's a lot of like small details. But anyway.
Or whenever you're teleporting back to the main area after you defeat colossi, like you can hear a voice in the light that like gets more clear as you go on.
Yeah, eventually you can start to hear her voice, which is interesting. Okay, Michael.
Yeah.
Michael.
But
go on.
yeah. The thing is like at the same time, once again, I liked the theme. I thought like the entire thing of like it was kind of almost like I think that it's like an Ainu type of thing. It felt like weirdly like Japanese, but also like kind of like Native American feel. It had like this very interesting like vibe going on. And the thing is like I can honestly see Shadow of the Colossus being like a progenitor of like a bunch of other different like things. Like when I was playing it, I was like, man, this is like I feel so like probably like a game that kept on thinking of as like Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, because it's got like a very similar like theme. It's got like some similar like mechanics, especially like the weird like dark strand things.
I won't lie. Like traversing in the overworld, I couldn't help but get Twilight Princess vibes with how everything looked, because like there were so many like cliff sides, going on, and just like, or when I mean cliff sides, I mean like you're just out in the world and like there's just so many spots where you can just see like just drop off points or where the land just stops, you know.
Mm-hmm. But so this is I was trying to like warn everyone about like the slight hot take, because I think like all that is like very impressive, and I can't say anything like I have fault with any of those points. The problem I have is when you get to the actual Colossi boss fights, that and just a little bit of the open world. Like once again, it's like I feel that's why I kind of like think like tech demo is like. It has like these big stretching overworlds, but honestly, it's not really much like doing it. Kind of like felt like almost like a proof of concept, and at the same time, like trying to find those like lizards in like the fruit trees, especially the fruit trees, was like not, in my opinion, nigh impossible. To like try and actively search for it without like, I don't know. I feel so if you were to like try and find them by yourself, it would be quite kind of like irritating.
I mean, that's why I just kind of only like whenever I see a tree, I'm like, "Oh, is there fruit there?" Oh, well. I just kind of tried to search what I could.
Legitimately, I went to like a tree and I was like looking up at it, and I saw this like little bump, and I was like, "No, there's no way that this is like a fruit. If this is like a fruit, I'm going to like," and like held up my bow. If this is like a fruit, I'm going to laugh my ass off. I shot and a fruit fell down. And I picked it up, and it was one of the fruits. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" I thought that was just like a bump on the tree.
And don't even like, and we didn't even mention the fact that the game doesn't even tell you that you can collect this stuff.
Yeah, the game never tells you to go out and do any of this stuff. The only thing it tells you is beat the Colossi.
Yeah, but yeah. So as I was like going about doing this, I've had like one big problem, and that is, I'm very impressed by the Colossi. I like a lot of like the controls of it. Some of the Colossi things are very impressive. Like I think that there was like a little bit of like miscommunication. I did spoiler alert, I actually did not finish the game. I got to boss 11, and I was which was like the dog bull Colossi.
Oh, that one.
And I was so frustrated, and I think that I didn't save my game for that. So I was like, no, I cannot do that boss fight again. That one was, for me, beyond infuriating. But I will get to that a little bit later. But I was just like, trying to like I got to like boss 11. And I like a lot of like the concepts. I like the one of like my two favorite ones are honestly the flying one, the first flying one, where it's like you have to like shoot the bow at it, and it will try and swoop at you, and you have to jump on and climb.
Yeah, that was an awesome.
Love that fight. Even when I got knocked off once and had to do it all over again, I was like, I'm fine with this.
It's fun to do again. Yeah.
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 That, and also the electric eel underwater one, which was like right after that.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. I was a little upset with like the controls, but you know what? These are like kind of fun. And I also like enjoyed the poisonous lizard that like spat poison at you, and you'd have to like go in and like try and shoot two of its legs.
Yeah, get it off the wall. Oh yeah, that was cool.
Mm-hmm.
But the main thing that I had for most of the other one was like, man, I wish not only were the controls were different, because I don't know if it was like I saw like when I was like trying to like look at the difference between the PS2 versus the PS4 was with the PS4 you could change your control scheme. I saw.
I don't know about that, but at the very least the controls are different in the PS4 version.
They definitely like tightened them up for the PS4 remaster. They also they got rid of some mechanics that they thought were not mechanics, sorry, like some like part of the controls that they thought were not necessary. And I think they did offer. I mean, I would have to check, but I think they did offer customized controls, not in the way of like you can pick which buttons you want for which, but there's like different control schemes you can cycle through. Like you can cycle through their changes, or you can go back to the original if you wanted to. Or again, this is very like I'm guessing. Like I don't remember. I don't remember what they did or didn't do. I never looked at the controls outside of like.
But because it was just like when I was doing it, it's like, all right, triangle is like a weird button to jump for me. Square to like attack is just that's pretty common. R1 to like hold it.
Yeah.
I was like, that feels like weird, especially since I'm going to be pressing this button most of the game anyway. But the main thing that just kept on getting me again and again was, man, the controls are just not tight. And I think that was something different with like the PS4 version. But it's like, yeah, the controls were not tight. And I didn't really enjoy it. And because it would be like, and like the grappling like mechanic of like how you would be like, oh wow, I'm like being knocked off. It was interesting at first, but it also got to the point where it's like, especially that's why I hated like the 11th boss fight, was like, I swear to God, I was like on that thing for a long while, and I would just be like, not even trying to get like a full stab in, just like a semi, like just like a enough to pierce the skin, and it would either be too slow, and I would just be immediately knocked off because apparently any sort of bucking from this thing will just ruin your flow, or it would be too quick and wouldn't do any damage, and not even like pierce the skin.
Yeah, I can understand that frustration. Like even on the PS4 version, I had a hard enough time trying to like get that timing down of like static him before he'll throw me off, or but still enough to pierce the skin. I just had to get into a right rhythm. But I will say that there is an unfortunate side effect in the PS3 version because they upped the FPS. Because I think the first game dips between 15 to 20 frames at times. But the PS3 is oh, here's 60 FPS consistently. And because of that, the grip mechanic ended up being way more harsher in the PS3 version.
That makes you know what? That honestly makes a lot of sense from what I played. But and it was like that, and also one thing
Not to mention you're playing this
that's,
over PS Now, which is streaming. Which is also very dependent upon your internet connection.
So when I give my opinion, do remember everyone that this is also through perhaps a flawed experience. Just in general, not Shadow of the Colossus' fault entirely, but
just it's not somewhat of a poor technical issue that slipped in.
Yeah. So, and it was one of the other problems was for the same boss fight, I would literally be I would be knocked out for a second, and this thing would hit me, and when this thing hits you, you're knocked out. So I would get hit by it once, get knocked out for 5 seconds, start to slowly get back up for it to only hit me again. So my only
stun locked you, right?
It literally stun locked me to where the only way I could get out was when it eventually knocked me out of the arena, or I just got lucky.
Yeah.
And
I've had that happen before. It sucks.
It happened to a couple of them, honestly.
Well, that's the only one I saw that, and I was just not happy with that at all. And to
there
find
are
out that I
some
didn't
later
save
on
that boss
do the
fight,
same thing. So.
And to learn that happened, to have that happen, us do that all over again a second time because I didn't save, I was no, and I just gave up right there.
Yeah.
And the boss previous, which was it was the sand eel, which you had to be on aggro for while you shot at its eye behind you.
Yeah.
I didn't even figure that part out for a while. I just kept running around when is it gonna bump into something?
I thought the same exact thing when I first fought. I'm just do I have to lead to one of the pillars or?
Yeah. I even climbed one of the pillars at one point. I found a coin.
I found 5 of those my entire playthrough.
Yeah.
And there's
Those are
73
hidden.
of them.
My goodness.
Yeah. I'll give them props. They are well hidden.
Yeah. They're in parts of the level you're there's no way I can get up there, and then you do.
Nah.
It's crazy. Anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, the thing is I was going back and trying to fire at its eye. But the thing is, at least in the PS3 version, it would take at least 4 or 5 seconds for you to even to aim, for the cursor to begin going behind you. Yeah. Because you can't aim from the side. He had to take time to go back and start firing. And it just turned to me as oh, okay, sure, I'll just rapid fire because I can't really get a good hit on it. Because it was okay, I'm just, because aggro, especially for that fight, kept on hitting everything. That or the Colossi would jump and lunge at me, so that was kind of wasted time. But I was literally fuming with aggro at that point. I was because the thing was coming up, and I was jump off of aggro for whatever reason, and I'd see it coming to me, and I was aggro, aggro.
You were aggroing at aggro in that specific.
Yeah.
His name is false advertisement. The shadow does not go after aggro.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to get on it, trying to get on it, and you need to press triangle in order to get on it. But sometimes my guy would just jump near it and refuse to get on aggro, and I was motherfucker. And it just really became a fight. It felt more like a fight at times between me and the controls. And as you said, Will, sometimes it would be a fight of could I having to fall off it and having to get up at it. Honestly, I found probably the most excitement not from finding out the puzzle or anything like that, but honestly from figuring out, oh, if I let go at this moment, I can get like a few like seconds of like stamina.
Oh yeah, like finding
there's a lot
those spot recovery spots. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's almost purposeful in some parts, almost comically so. Like where you're like, oh, this is just so I can get my stamina back. Okay.
Yeah. So
Thanks for this conveniently placed like ruined jagged part or whatever.
Right. But it's almost like as if it wasn't there, we should just be more mad at the game. Right? Like,
Yeah,
if it was like, oh man, I can't get my stamina back. This feels impossible.
Like you have to do the entire, like you have to kill all like with one stamina go or
Right.
whatever.
that would be horrible.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, it's comical that they put like some of those like stamina recharge things in there, and it feels like, oh, this feels a little out of place with given what I know about these characters that they're trying to survive. Like it seems weird that they would just stop so I can recharge my stamina in this one weird way. But like, again, if it wasn't there, you might be more frustrated with the way that the game handles. But anyway.
Well, yeah, I have like no problem with that, but it was just like mainly like, yeah, I'm like more interested in how like finding out clever ways of like recovering my stamina. Whether it's like he tries to like shake me off his head, and I let go for a few seconds onto his shoulders just to climb back onto his head. I found like more joy from that, from like actually following it, like finding out some of the puzzles. But overall, it was just like, man, the control I just had was like, it was just like a battle between the controllers, like 75% of the time when I was actually fighting something. Whether it be like trying to jump onto aggro or trying to, I do remember for the very first one, I was like, I got like the shit, like the calf, and I was like, all right, that his like arm is down because it really focused on his arm. So I like try to get on his arm. It's like, why is it not letting me like get on his arm? And I found out, oh, you have to like go up his like thigh. I was like, then why'd you like highlight the arm? Was it like to just, psych me out? But it was just like trying to like figure out like the thing, like try and get like the battle of like the controls and mechanics. It was frustrating. It was mainly frustrating. So
What about the camera? Did you find that to be a hassle?
honestly, the camera's fine. It wasn't too bad of a problem.
I only bring this up because there have been the occasional times where I'm like trying to move it around, but then they're like, no, I want to show up like this. I'm like, I don't care. I want to look over there.
I just gotta get to that. I'm gonna say that the camera feels a little old, and I don't entirely blame the game for that, even in the remaster's sake, because literally, 2005 through like the early 2000s and even in the mid 90s, people were still trying to figure out 3D games. They were trying to figure out like what makes a third person game, what makes a first person game, like what's the
how do you get the control or how do you get the camera to
Yeah.
show off everything you need to.
This is a conversation that Will and I had on Will's stream at
LinkFan 1291
right on Twitch TV, where we talked about like how Devil May Cry was one of the first real action games. In terms of like that kind of like combo, like
the hack and slash stylish.
Yeah, in terms of like the hack and slash, like stylish style.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's still trying to be a thing to like figure out.
Yeah, because especially since it was originally a Resident Evil title.
Right. And the thing that's interesting about that is that like while we can look back at games that we've played in the early 2000s. And even kind of the early 2010s, and say like, oh, this camera sucks for whatever reason, or this works, or this doesn't work, and this does work for yada yada yada. For I guess I can only speak for myself and from what I've seen online, but since the early 2010s, I have not seen anybody really complain about a camera system since then. In a AAA title. And it is through games like Devil May Cry. It is through games like Shadow of the Colossus. It is through this whole era that we went through in the PlayStation 2, GameCube, Xbox era.
The trial and error.
Of trial and error, basically. Of trying to figure out what is the best way to operate a video game camera. There are things that they really did well in some of those older games that I wish they would come back. in games nowadays. They don't really do that anymore. In terms of interactability, I loved how in every, I mean, I don't mean to just immediately transfer myself, but I loved how in every cutscene, at least in the remake version, I got to play the PlayStation 2 version at some point. I have it. That every cutscene is interactable. You can ruin every shot if you really wanted to.
What are you talking about? I thought those shaky cams were totally the artist's intention.
Right, yeah. Like, it was totally intention for it to start on the thing that they had framed it for, and then immediately dart to the to the left or dart to the right, or whatever they want. What if you did? But I still find it admirable that they would allow you to ruin the scene like that if you wanted to. Which, if you think of like a Call of Duty, or if you think of like a big AAA game that came out now, they would never allow you in Horizon Zero Dawn to like ruin the camera angle that they had spent whatever amount of time trying to figure out, right?
Yeah.
But in Shadow of the Colossus, because this is such a new era of third-person games, just, do whatever you want, you know? I think of things of like, I mean, funny to like just jump to this comparison, but I think of things of like how interactability trumped the way that you saw some of the cutscenes in like Dead Rising of all things, like how every bit of the wall was like, oh, this is an item that you buy, or like there's so many games from the early aughts and early 2010s that are like interactability is king, not
cinematic framing.
Not cinematic framing. And later on in that decade, we saw very much that graphical quality and the way something looked was king over the interactability, which is, in video games, honestly, I think interactability is king. The deeper your game is, the better in terms of that.
Yeah. Sometimes it's better to be as wide as a river, but deep as an ocean.
Yeah. So, honestly, there is a lot of stuff that I think is really amazing, especially considering like the era. Like, there's a lot of stuff that I think is like pretty good. Like once I saw it as like, oh, this is like a tech demo of showing like the limits that we could really push this console. It's like I think it's like quite amazing with like the graphics of like fur and like, story is pretty simple, but I think that they do a lot of like super interesting things with it. And it didn't need to be like super duper cinematic and, have all these things with it. So
I mean, it's a simple just save the girl kind of story. When you consider it,
yeah, it's like all in all is simple. The execution is very interesting.
Like you have your goal, so you have at it, basically.
Yeah, the open world, bare bones, but also once again, when you look at it as like a tech demo with like all these things, I think it like has like a pass. With like the graphical quality and the designs of the Shadow of the Colossi, also really amazing, especially for its time. Gameplay can be, I think it could be good, but at least with my controls, I could not keep going. I was just getting way too frustrated with it. So, as unfortunate as it is, I had to like stop. I just could not deal with like the controls.
I'm very mixed in Shadow of the Colossus. I gotta tell you, this is my views on the game. There are some very, very beautiful moments in Shadow of the Colossus. I think it's very well put together in terms of its art design, in terms of its soundtrack, in terms of the design of the Colossi, in terms of the design of the character, why you're there, what you're doing, the way that they have you doing it, the way that they present what you're doing. Like it's almost very a trope. It's like a trope in video games to like save the princess, right? Yeah. And I think they do it in a very interesting way of like, you just do it. You're just there. We don't say why you're doing it. You just show up and you're there to protect your sister, your girlfriend,
some chick,
your princess.
Yeah, it's a woman.
Somebody,
and
you're
technically
there to bring them back to
too.
life. Right. And I thought it was very interesting for them to say nothing about it. Is it you just show up, you drop her off, and they're like, all right, if you want to bring her back to life, this is what you got to do for me, all right?
Yeah.
Well, it was also like kind of like it was just at that time where like in media, like we are experiencing a very interesting part in media now. I think we're starting to like wane from it a bit, which is like this is like the time where it's like, you know, we were like, all right, we're supposed to rescue the princess. Of course we are. Why would we ask questions? Now we're in like that part of like, oh, we need to know like everything about the world and
postmodern.
Postmodern, and have like an explanation for everything, including like why that rock is there.
You guys spend the first 30 minutes of the game watching a movie.
So it was like in a very simple time. It's like, yeah, of course I'm helping this lady. Why wouldn't I?
Yeah, and I find it.
Ask questions.
I wouldn't agree with Michael's take that it just to like immediately like jump to something controversial for hashtag content. I wouldn't agree with Michael's take that it's necessarily a tech demo. By the time that this game actually came out, this was already by the 2 years off of the end of the PlayStation 2's life cycle. So this is probably something that the artist intended that you do. And I mean, again, we talked about how like there were 48 Colossi at one point intended. I don't think that it's necessarily a graphical showcase in terms of like, oh, we're trying to show the power of this console. Because when you say the word tech demo, that's really what you, whether you like intend to or not, it's like, well, that's what you imply. Is that this is a piece of software intended to sell a box, so to show you what this thing can do. Like games like Rise or the original Knack, or like games that are like, oh, this shows the physics of the thing, or this shows how many polygons we have on camera so that you can do the thing. I understand that where that impression might come from with the individual hells or with the individual hairs and the scale of the bosses that you fight. But in terms of like, oh, this is a tech demo to show the power of the PS2. When this ran on the PS2, this ran at like a slideshow level. This was hardly working when I shipped it. So like, it's hard to say like, look at this car that we've built with no paint and the wheels are falling off.
I mean, like they are obviously
this
like
is a great Lamborghini we built. No, so like that's where like my slight disagreement is. Well, I do think that I understand where that comes from. I mean to say. Because that comes from a point of like the game's cinematic quality, which is like, look at the scale of the thing we built, right? Look at the thing that we did with the hair particles. And the reason why those hair particles are the way they are is because it's literally a mechanic.
Yeah, it is a mechanic.
Yeah, how do I grab the boss? How do I defeat the boss? Oh, look for the hairy bit, right? So like, there's a reason behind things like that. When you talk about a tech demo, usually it's like, oh, we made this thing look really pretty, not because of any gameplay implications, but because we're trying to sell the Xbox or we're trying to sell the whatever. So like that's
I personally would disagree with that. I think that you can make something where with like the not exactly as like the intent, but it's just showing off, something that would be, as you say, I don't think it's like, oh, just having it has to be part of like, doesn't have to be part of like anything. I can think that you can like show off the power of something like this as well as, make it into a gameplay mechanic. In fact, I think they do a very interesting way of balancing the two with it, personally.
I understand that like the feedback. I just feel like that when you say tech demo, the phrase tech demo implies we're trying to show the graphical showcase that is this box that we're trying to sell, and in video game vocabulary, I guess that is usually what they mean by that. It's like, oh, this thing is focusing on the visuals over the playability. Again, that's really what they try to sell you on. And I think that the conflation of the two, like where we're crossing over here, is that the game is so cinematic that it forces you to look at the flashy bits, which is very much like what a tech demo does. But considering how late in the console cycle, again, this is like 2 or 1 year before the next generation, and considering the state that it came out at launch, I would have a hard time calling it a tech demo. Because it doesn't show a graphical showcase of something that we can do. It just shows like, oh, this thing is very pretty. And I understand like where like, what's the difference between, oh, I'm very pretty and this thing is a tech demo? Like the semantics of which you can go back and forth on, I think, for a little bit.
Oh yeah, that's like a conversation of its own. That's its own topic.
Right. So I'm not gonna focus on that too much. Other than that, I disagree.
Therefore, you're wrong.
It is a showcase. It is a tech demo. Anyway, I think the game looks spectacular in terms of the way that it presents itself, obviously. But I would agree with the party here. I don't think anybody has said that, like, oh, these controls are perfect. That the way that you interact with the environment is not always great. Even in the fun things that you're supposed to do on the side, like in the remake, you collect coins, most of which are in asinine places on the map that literally you have to break the geometry in order to get to. One of the streams I did for Cyberpunk, oh my god, for Shadow of the Colossus, I had to like climb up to a point of the level where I literally thought I was going to walk out of the bounds, and I found one of those coins. So I go back and forth on whether or not like all that exploration that they want you to do works the way that they intended, specifically for the remake. So again, this leaves me like very, very mixed. So like I think that the scale of it, the presentation, the soundtrack, the like just everything, including the scale of the Colossi itself, are fantastic. But when you actually play the thing, like a friend of mine said, it gets a little rough. It gets it falls behind. It's something that's very, very great to look at, but not always great to play. And that's what she said. Literally, that's what my friend said. So, I told Will about this as well. Will knows what I'm talking about. Oh no. Okay, I'm back. I just saw that I wasn't green for a second. I was like, oh no, am I not talking again?
And I find it interesting since, again, like the game was kind of designed to be somewhat frustrating to control. So it's like...
Right. That's something I don't want to... Like, I think it's a deeper topic for another time. But it's like, at what point does someone's creative intent fall behind the usability or playability or watchability of the thing?
Yeah, it's that entire discussion of like, if I paint like a painting just to piss everybody off, sure, I have done what my art was meant to do. I have pissed everyone off. But
right.
It's still, but people are still pissed off at it.
Which I think is actually kind of like, thinking about it, it's quite amazing that like Shadow of the Colossus and his company got the mainstream attention that they did, because playing it, it's kind of niche in that regard, you know, because it's not the most fun to play, you know, it's not designed to be fun to play.
That is something that I think is very interesting about it, which is that, and I wouldn't have mentioned it otherwise, but every game they've made, Eco, Shadow of the Colossus, Last Guardian,
Tokyo Jungle by Japan's
Tokyo Jungle
by Japan Studio.
Fast and Furious, Too Fast, Too Furious.
Totally not fun.
All of their games, Transformers, The Ride, all of them have a common complaint, which is that the controls are not fun, or that this is a great world to explore, but I struggle to find meaning in what I'm doing. Or it's just various variations on that same complaint.
I just don't find the game fun.
Right. Yeah. And that is a very popular thing to say about Team Ico's games. RIP. Because they're not around anymore.
Yes.
Neither is Japan Studio.
Unfortunate.
Apparently that director is working on something else, which I would love to talk about on this podcast if it ever fucking comes out. Because they announced it like 12 years ago.
Hey, they'll get there eventually.
Right, Last Guardian came out, so...
Yeah, they're just baking in the oven.
Same that it did when they announced it in 2010. Anyway.
But yeah, that's a common complaint that the games just aren't fun to play.
Very, very, very common complaint. Not fun to play, great to look at. And again, this game is just dripping with atmosphere, with depth, with with
character,
attention to detail, character, just so much focus on it. Except for the end.
I think the end of Shadow of the Colossus is kind of lame.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, just throw the sword into the puddle and then we lock Dorman away. Oh, why didn't we do that in the first place?
It's another thing of like that I, think it's like a worthwhile discussion is like because I was like looking at the same thing. It was like the thing about it being a tech demo. I wouldn't say glorified. They say it's a glorified tech demo. I wouldn't agree with that. But like the top thing was like it's not supposed to be a gameplay heavy game with lots of combat. Try to separate your expectation what a game should be and just enjoy the experience. The game feels more complete than most games I've played because it's so focused. And that's the thing. The thing is, like, I actually pretty much like really disagree with that thing where it's like I can the thing of like sure I have like no problem with like with if you want to make it like more of like kind of like journey, more about the experience or the Stanley Parable, you can definitely do that. But when the game, you have like the parts
so good to talk about on this podcast. My God.
Oh yeah, but it's like
anyway,
if you like the parts of like it being, a video game, and that video game is a lot of times not fun to play.
Yeah.
You still have to like, no matter like how good the experience might be, if the gamey parts aren't fun to play, then it's really hard to like say, hey, this is really fucking good.
Which is interesting because for me, I actually got a lot of fun and enjoyment out of the game, not because of the gameplay, but because I found myself engrossed in this world.
I lost everybody. Hello?
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 And we're back.
Okay, you good?
I got you guys back. I lost you for a second.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, and your video feed is... Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, man, this is... It's just falling
This
apart
is
minute
awful.
by minute.
Doing podcasts over the internet. Hell yeah. I get a hell yeah.
Hell yeah, brother.
Praise the roof.
But because like it's kind of weird because I personally found I found the game fun because of the elements that they had to like I found myself engrossed in this world. I liked climbing the Colossi and like having this cinematic feel of like, oh my god, I'm on top of this giant Colossi kind of.
Well, it goes back to like what you said. It's a very hit or miss. It's just for like me. It was, it was for me. It was like a pretty significant miss. It felt like
The game is very focused on hunting down the Colossi. That's why there's like on the overworld, there's not much to do because your singular focus is supposed to hunt those things down. And so it's like if you don't find that mechanic particularly interesting, there's not much that's gonna change your mind later in the game.
There's not much to appeal to a broader audience. Yeah, you're not doing much else outside of hunting Colossi. There's a cool world to explore. It's pretty empty, but
yeah.
And so it's like I turned out to be part of that niche where it's like I found hunting the Colossi to be awesome, so I kept exploring the worlds.
To wrap up my thoughts, I think it's a very, very well presented game. I said it a couple times. It's a gorgeous world to look around. There's a fascinating developer history that the relics of which you can see in the world itself, including in the remake. The remake added a couple things, which, Will, you should look into. You've got it. So you look into some of those things that you can do in the remake. I think you're going to find some interesting things. I'm probably going to expand some final thoughts on the Shadow of the Colossi remake in future episodes because I intend on playing a little bit more of New Game Plus because I want to get one of the two of those Easter eggs because I think they're kind of cool. Mm-hmm. But overall, if I had to like boil it down to something, I would say like not always fun to play, eventually kind of tedious, very great creature design, just like great presentation overall, which is normally something that like that's a Brendan tick. Something really presents itself really well. Usually, I applaud things like that. But we'll talk about that when we get to the scores. Which, by the way, guys, what are some final scores
for Shadow of the Colossus? Will?
I actually wanted to bring up the ending and ask you, like, what were your thoughts on it?
Oh, yeah. We should probably talk about the ending. Yeah, right. Spoilers for Shadow of the Colossus.
Mike.
Come on. Spoilers for Shadow of the Colossus.
Oh no,
Come
I
on.
have to leave the
Mike
call.
hasn't finished it. Doesn't matter. You had a decade plus.
All right, go ahead.
Go ahead, Will.
So, I liked parts of the... Okay, I liked aspects of the ending. I liked that, sort of that twist when you realized that you were being used the entire time. Like, your motivation for saving this girl was being
What?
used to fuel whatever, was helping you, right? Which I think was kind of a nice
I must have
twist on
played
the
the
whole
wrong
Save the
game.
Princess arc.
This is not what happens. I thought that like you build a baseball team and then you get to the World Series and no, that's out of the park baseball. Oh, no, I'm
No,
just kidding.
actually,
Yeah,
it's
I
you
know what
build
you're
a
talking
football team.
Right. Yeah, no. I mean, honestly, I don't think it's really a twist that you being used the whole time. They kind of make it clear from the get go that it's like, hey, you want this thing, you better do this. You know, like it's not really like a plot twist. The plot twist is that you become the character itself.
Oh yeah, no, I was gonna bring that up. Was like it was awesome. Yeah.
I was gonna say this is jumping ahead a bit, but like when you're in that final segment and you're like reaching out for the princess, that is such a hard hitting segment.
Like I was desperately trying to hang on. Like, oh, can I actually like hang on? No, I wanna. Oh.
No, at some point I let go. I think that I mean this is probably me reading too much into it, but that for me I think is what is one of the most interesting things. I love bad endings. I love like sad, whatever, like punishing endings. I guess you really would say it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because the guy did like
And
traverse onto
to see the thing
Forbidden
that you
Lands.
want the entire time, which is something I don't like about later on in the post credit scene. When you reach out for the thing that you wanted the whole time, I think maybe it's kind of undercut by like the post credit scene again, but like the thing that really does it for me is like you're reaching out for the thing that you want and you can't get it, and you realize you can't get it, and you let go. That is really interesting stuff. And that is something in the ending segment that I think is told to you on a really cool way, which is through gameplay. You literally have to claw your way back to get the thing that you want, and even then, you still can't do it. Very interesting way to end a game. But of course, that is not the way they end the game. Of course it's not.
Yeah, so it's like either you can fight it all the way to the end or just accept it, which is really cool.
Right.
Yeah, and then the post-credit scenes comes in and undercuts all of that. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. So basically, the end credit scene, for those that may have not finished the game, unbelievably, is that the main character is reborn in the like pool, or
Yeah.
I don't know how you were describing it as. Basically, the pond of water that is at the gate of the castle,
Which
that you enter to bring back the princess, and the princess comes back to life, obviously, and also aggro comes back in a kind of lame way, which made me go, "How the hell?"
yeah, like I won't lie. Yeah, I won't lie. I got a little emotional when aggro suddenly drops from beneath you. I'm like, oh, what the fuck, aggro? But then he just comes back, and I'm like, oh, how? What?
Yeah.
It kind
And
of.
I understand what people mean when they say that, oh, this is a prequel to Eco as well.
Yeah, because so I think the theory was that now that you've been reborn, you are like the first of the cursed child or whatever. Then
Right, that you're the main character of Eco and you guide the princess around or whatever. Yeah. Although it doesn't make any sense. Where did Igro go? Or how did you survive for that long? And
yeah, well, obviously they ate the fruit and tailed of lizards. But the thing is, though, is that like they gave you enough visual clues to show like how much it stands out. Because there's other lizards out in the world if you look at it, but none of them are silver-tailed.
Yeah, no, it has like fake lizards.
Yeah, and so like it's like I said, that's why I brought up how that's why I brought up how silvertails are at the sage shrines, because they teach, or that's one thing that the god or whatever taught you was that, oh, you gotta go to these save points that help you out. So like they kind of expect players to be guided to at least one of those shrines and hopefully come across a silver-tailed lizard. And then it's just kind of up to the player to like, oh, am I going to shoot at it or am I just going to ignore it,
Right. There's even a silver-tailed lizard in the start of the game in that area with the princess. Did you get that one? I don't blame you if none of you got it. Yeah, because I literally a chatter. Yeah, I imagine in the PS2 version, PS3 version, that it's way more obvious than it was in the remake, because the remake makes everything look fancy, so everything looks like kind of hard to spot. But right at the start, they give you one with all the grass, with all the texturing, with all the fancy whatever. In the PS2 version, or PS3 version, I imagine that they're like.
But it's because of like I appreciate that the game trusts you to do stuff on your own, and just the overall experience that it gives. I would have to give it like an 8. Now I will. I did knock a few points because some of the mechanics can be a little bit annoying to work with, whether intentionally or so. And like as much as I love exploring the world, after trying to traverse through it 16 times, there's only so much charm that looking at the scenery can hold,
Yes.
So
yeah.
It is definitely a game that is greater than
it's
some
cool
of
to
its
know about
parts.
like what the bosses that were cut out and all that stuff, but like at the end of the day, they were cut. You know, you have to do the work to find them.
Yeah,
you
wouldn't know just by playing the game unless you like really looked into it. But yeah, it's definitely greater than the sum of its parts. I really enjoy my time playing with it.
Okay.
A lot of the things I think, especially for the time, were very, very, very impressive. But at the same time, you could say it's an experience and everything, but at the same time, if you have like video game mechanics and the video game mechanics for it are bad and it's like part of the experience, I still think that's a negative point to the experience. So I'd probably have to give it like a.
That's messy. That's a messy experience.
Yeah, if it's messy, it's a messy experience. That's gonna make me feel just by design, it's part of the experience. So I'm going to have to probably give it like the PS3 version. I'd have to give like a 6, maybe a 6.5 out of 10. It's still because a lot of it is amazing, I have to admit, but it's still a game as well. And the game's just a lot of times not very fun. Just frustrating.
Yeah.
Okay. What about you, Brendan?
It is not Death Parade, so it does not get a negative 69 out of 10.
But it's also not pure comedy.
But it's not pure comedy, so it doesn't get a 10 either. No, I'm just kidding. I understand why people say that this is their favorite game. I understand why people say that it's like a 10 out of 10. This is a pure like video game art piece. That this is the first video game to show video games not just as Pac-Man, arcade, whatever. No, video games are an art form, and I get that. I really, really see that in this piece, and I'm sure that I would. In Eco, I'm sure that I would, and I did a little bit in Last Guardian. I did with Half-Life. I did with so many other video games that have come out before and after. But I would still say that even if your game is gorgeous to look at, even if you did a really, really good job in the design of your world and you put a lot of thought into the way that someone interacts with the world that you made If it's not fun to play, it's not fun to play. If it's hard to control, it's hard to control. And when you're looking for the perfect video game, quote unquote, TM, you're looking for something that does the presentation well. You're looking for something that controls well. You're looking for a gameplay loop that is satisfying through and through. Where even if you were like, man, this is boring as shit, but man, is this gameplay fun to do. That is what you're looking at for the like abject perfect video game, which may or may not exist. TM at some point. TM.
It needs to be. It needs to be. Yeah. If you're gonna have a perfect game, it has to be a holistic
piece. It can't just have parts of it that are good. Yeah. And parts of it that are not.
I think that's the difference between a a perfect game and a favorite game is you can have a favorite game that's like even like in some parts objectively bad, but I'd say it's hard to say like it's like an objectively good game. Right,
which is why I say that I understand why people would say that this is their favorite game.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like I can understand playing this in 2005, forgiving the frame rate, and being like, holy shit, this is amazing. That you can climb this big ass thing and like take it down. Which, by the way, I didn't get to mention this earlier. I love how every time you beat a Colossus, it is not a triumphant moment. It is a sad moment. The game very much paints it as not a triumphant thing to do.
No.
Which is kind of
again,
funny
is part of this game's dripping atmosphere, dripping presentation, just very thoughtfully put together.
I was just gonna say it does kind of feel like the antithesis of a traditional game because it's like I want to save this girl and go fight these bosses, but every boss you fight, it just feels kind of sad to do so, and you look worse off because of it.
Right, literally your character gets darker.
Yeah, and by the end you're punished for doing so.
Yeah. Which, I mean, it's enough to, like, showboat around, I guess, with my final score, which is that the game is a 7 for me. It was very close to an 8 on a lot of occasions. Very often, I would play this game walking up to a boss and be like, holy shit, this is a 10. But then I would fight the boss, and then I would fall off the boss, and then I would have to do it again. And then I would try to grab on, and then I would get knocked off again, or clip through the level, or whatever, and then I'd have to do it again. And I was like, okay, yeah, no. This is a very, very pretty thing that disguises some very, very mismanaged mechanics that are very thoughtfully put together, but do not control very well when it's in the hands of the player, which in a video game's case is half the point. So yeah, I'm at about a 7. All right. Thank you for listening to I almost said it again. You at home know what I almost said. Mm-hmm. But I'm not going to say it. Thank you for listening to Media Cocktail Podcast, episode 5. Yeah, this has been a fucking rough one for your boys. But we got through it. Shut up to stop. All right. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, this one was a little bit rough behind the scenes, but we still have it out for you guys. So I hope, even with it being rough, I still hope you guys enjoy it.
To follow up with ya boys over here, you've got Not Brandon, otherwise known as Not a Headless Samurai on Twitch, twitch.tv/Not a Headless Samurai. You can catch me streaming all kinds of games. Right now, I'm doing a series on horror games and how they don't scare me, which may or may not be a video topic at some point if I ever make videos. Goddamn.
Yeah, but for those of you that don't know, we are planning on playing Dark Souls 3 once we're finished with Resident Evil.
That's right. That's right.
We were gonna try and do more Resident Evil, but we haven't found any like methods or I wouldn't like any like.
Will can attest. We tried our damnedest. We looked up to get something going.
We looked up like so many different
with RE5
mods
or RE. Sorry.
Like so many different mods, but like the only mod we found for Resident Evil 4 came out 3 years ago almost, and hasn't been updated since.
Yeah.
So
we tried.
So
we're moving on to Souls.
you can check that out at twitch.tv at linkfan/linkfan1291 and
not a headless samurai. And twitch.tv, not a headless samurai. Michael, for a while on this podcast, we have said that Will is, or sorry, not Will, nothing to do with Will. My brain just flubbed. That you, Michael, have been aimless. You are not a content creator. You are not a video creator. You're not a influencer, as some people say the word.
Yes,
do you
I am
care
not
to
an
inform the
influencer.
public about what you're doing next?
But yeah, I have decided to go ahead and try my own hand at streaming. I'm going to do, the occasional video game every now and then. Don't really have anything super, clear at this point just yet. But I am also going to be trying something. I am also planning to do a co-op stream with Brendan for a game that we tried once and absolutely left our asses off with, which is Far Cry 5. I've finished a game before. This is Brendan's first time going through the story. And we already had some off-stream. We already had some moments that I was like, are you sure you don't want to stream this? Are you sure? Literally going to the yes sign and just chopping it with our helicopter blades while never falling down, trimming it like it was a like it's a lawnmower. But
shooting an NPC and then picking him up and then shooting the NPC
and then throwing rocks at his body.
It was a great experience.
The main thing is, the channel that I'm launching is called Drinks and Fun. Drinks and Fun. Spelling out completely and. Basically, what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to be trying to make some cocktails on stream. Still have a little bit of a starting setup, but I am looking forward to hopefully seeing you guys there while I make some classic cocktails, some not so classic cocktails, and also mainly just shooting the shit and enjoying the time with anyone who wants to come in, ask me questions about myself, see what's going on with you guys, talk about some fun topics, just as I said before, shoot the shit with you guys and just enjoy the cocktails.
It's almost an extension of the show.
Enjoy the ambiance and enjoying the conversation.
Considering that we do cocktails
as your little break from the week.
Which, by the way, what did everybody think of their highball? If they partook.
Oh no. Oh no. I think I was cut off for a few seconds.
Oh my god. What is happening in
Hello?
Discord today? It is never this bad.
I think I was cut off for a few seconds.
Okay. All right. I enjoy my highball. It was good.
Yes, the highball was good. It was pretty good. Very, very easy. Ginger ale complemented the whiskey while not being too overbearing. You still got that good, nice, whiskey taste to go along with it. I would give it a 6 out of 10 personally. Nice little sip and drink.
Like a 5 out of 10 for me. It's easy to make. Also, so before we head out, we have next week, or not next week, the week after's choice of media.
Next week's choice is
and this
Michael's
time,
choice.
it's
Originally, it would have been my
Michael's
choice, but we actually skipped Michael to once because if you remember in episode 2, it took a while for us to all watch Death Parade, so we had to
go back to the lore
or listen to pure comedy in between. This time, I don't think it'll take that much time though, especially considering that we have 2 weeks in between each episode now. Michael, would you mind telling us what our next media is?
It is a show that I've seen and I absolutely adore.
But for the right reasons.
Honestly, I kind of love it ironically, but also unironically as well. There's some just like funny stuff in this show. But the show is called Neo Yokio. Yep, that's right. We at the Media Cocktail, I was thinking, we have like so many good things here. We have too many good things, in fact. We got Shadow of the Colossus, we got Death Parade, we got pure comedy, we got Spec Ops: The Line. We got too much good stuff, so why not introduce a healthy dose of trash? Because as you know, if you eat 5-star sirloins every single day, you can never really appreciate one if you don't have a disgusting Whopper every now and then. A big, meaty, disgusting Whopper.
Greasy Whopper.
So, yeah, Neo Yokio is my choice. I'm very excited, especially to talk to Brendan about it. It is going to be a wild ride, and it's only 6 episodes.
Well, that's just half the length for double the time we'll have.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. We have some extra topics to talk about next week as well. And hopefully things fucking work. Unlike this week, which is such a disaster. If we're going to find out on Sunday if we have to do it again. My God, if we have to do it again, whoo boy.
My God.
Boy. All right, anyway. Thank you for listening to episode 5.
Thank you all for listening.
Thank you for listening to episode 5 of the Media Cocktail Podcast. Don't forget to check out our happy hour episode, Jeopardy, which I painstakingly put together. Like, come on, dude. Like, like it's rough, but like, come on, check it out. We also have another episode of Happy Hour coming out next week following this episode of the podcast, because, again, the podcast is now every 2 weeks. And in between then, you'll get a Happy Hour. And this next week's Happy Hour is Smash Smash with Smash. It's us playing a drinking game, and then it's pretty fun. It's pretty good. Discord crashed again. I don't know what Will's doing. We're out of control. Okay, bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.